It's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter.
Yeah.
You need to turn up and put in the hours. We are interior designers. Our forte is really workplace design. The design is around purpose.
I think your career is an example of a dream run.
You never know where a conversation is going to lead. We were sitting in the pub trying to think of the name. We were young women and Sirens. You can hear us coming. Yahoo 7 really, I guess, put Siren on the map.
How do you crack this code?
It's certainly not an overnight thing. I was in the trenches working hard.
As a CEO, was that the most challenging time?
You get these little opportunities in life.
Yeah.
Why not grab them with two hands?
Knowledge acquisition is easy. The knowledge execution is the toughest part.
You can't do it all. It's impossible. Having that kind of 10-minute time to yourself, whether you journal or you meditate, it has to be so much more than just an office. Not everything's going to be perfect.
No.
Sometimes it's not what you know, but it's who you know.
But was this switch mentally difficult?
So this is a tricky question.
Hi, Penny. Welcome to the Behind the Glass Door podcast. You are global CEO for Siren Design, which is into interior design workplace. My first introduction to Siren and this space was only when I started working on campuses. I was aware of the services, but not really the scale and depth of it. So talk us more about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to share more about Siren Design and I guess a little bit about me and our journey. So it's my company and we are now 20 years old. So the business started, was founded in 2005 in Australia.
Right.
But we are a consultancy company, essentially. We are interior designers, and our forte is really workplace design. So we do specialize in corporate major fit out, big kind of workplace interiors. However, we also do retail, hospitality, F&B. We're working on university projects. We're currently also everything from trading firms to co-working, multi-res developments. We also have an in-house graphics design team as well. So there's like a really holistic approach to an interiors scheme. But I guess when we're working on campus projects, there is a whole lot that goes into designing a campus.
Right.
And we've designed for a lot of campuses around the world. So the likes of Google and Amazon and Meta, a lot of the big banks as well. I think banks see themselves more as tech firms now rather than financial institutions. So yeah, we've designed for like the full range of different sectors across workplace. But I would say, our forte is really workplace design.
Right.
But as I mentioned earlier, we have offices throughout Australia. So in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. We have an office in Singapore.
Right.
We have an office in Manila and New York and now London, where we are today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, how do you manage these offices? Because time zone wise, I'm sure as a CEO, you want to know everything about these offices. How do you manage your workload? How is your typical day look like?
I start early. So I'm usually on early calls with Australia. And then Singapore wakes up. And then I'll dive into London. So usually that's a typical day. I think when the road of like what my day looked like was very different from my early career. When I kind of started business, when I moved to Singapore and then set up the business there and kind of went into startup land, and now I'm back in startup land here in London.
Right.
So I think with the business, it goes through peaks and troughs in terms of what I'm focusing on and like trying to strike that balance of what garden bed needs watering more. I think that's a lot of balance in my life as well as with the business is I kind of look at it in that aspect as well, in terms of how much time and effort, each studio needs.
Right.
Sometimes they're thriving on their own and they don't need so much of my input, and
Sure.
whereas other
That's
times
the ideal case, right?
that's the ideal. Yeah. But yeah.
So I want to know more about the scope of services and what all things I do. But you mentioned about your career, right? And for anyone who is starting in any industry, I think your career is an example of a dream run. So you started in this company 20 years back, and now you are a global CEO.
Yeah.
Talk me through it. How was the journey? I mean, I'm fascinated by it.
Okay. All right. So let's go right back.
Yeah.
How far back should we go?
I think years back, right? That's when you were in Australia.
Yeah, that was when I was in Australia. So, what I had, I studied interior design
Okay.
at university. I also studied a Bachelor of International Studies as well. So, I think that kind of, I think I've always been that person of what's out there. What is there something more? I've always been keen to kind of know more about the world and different cultures, and so I think that international course for me was international studies was a big tick. When I was still studying, so I also studied in Milan as well in Italy,
Right.
interiors there. And then when I came back from Italy, I didn't want to be graduating without a job, didn't want to be heading into the workforce competing, I guess, against everybody else graduating. And so it was, I think, in the second off, I studied for 6 years, and I got to know a lot of the suppliers as they were coming into the university to do presentations. And I think you've got to take every opportunity as they present themselves. So you never know where a conversation is going to lead. And so meeting with these suppliers and starting to make friends in the industry and starting to build your network, you have to start young.
Yeah.
And I think you have to put yourself out there to really kind of get those opportunities than to, you never know where they're going to take you. So I wanted to get some work experience at the time, and I remember there was one of the suppliers mentioned that there was a job going at a company called IBIS Design.
Okay.
And so I went to meet with Mia Feasy, who was the owner of IBIS at the time. I was still at university, and I very clearly said to her, I can't work full time. She was looking for an interior designer, and I said, I'm looking for work experience. But, if you've got anything, a day, 2 days, whatever you've got, I'll take it. I want to get that experience.
Cool.
And really that's kind of how I got my foot in the door early. So I think, if you're starting out in your career, getting that real life experience as early as you can is only going to help you once you've finished your degree, or you're doing an internship, or you're whatever the kind of path is, I guess, to kind of that career launch pad, I guess. You got to try and meet as many people as you can and take those opportunities, and not just, sending out cold emails with your CV.
True.
It's a competitive world.
I think starting somewhere is so important. Right? You're just getting the real experience, even if it's not perfect. Just getting into it.
100%.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. So when did this company became Siren?
So then, so Mia and I worked together probably for about 4 years before Siren began. And Ivy's Design was very much set up as a design and build company. And design and build is, by the nature of the name, you design it and then you build it. Whereas Siren Design, we're consultancy. So we're just designers. We don't have builders attached to us. We kind of, that's our forte. And at the time, Mia, we were primarily doing consultancy projects, but part of a design and build company, and Mia wanted to just focus on the design. So it was at that point in time, it was kind of a big, I guess, leap of faith that, very young girls, I guess, set up Siren, and there
So
was kind
started
of
with
four
a
of us.
2 employee company?
There was,
And
I
yeah.
think there was 4 or 5 of us
Right.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was in that process of we were sitting in the pub trying to think of the name.
Right.
What are we going to call ourselves? We didn't want to be an acronym, didn't want to be someone's last name.
Right.
We were young women.
Yeah.
And sirens, you can hear us coming. So
Exactly.
it was, that's kind of where the name was born. And Siren was then off and running. And I think each studio has had quite a pivotal project that has launched the business.
Right.
And
So all the growths are organic. So
they've all
when
been
you get
organic.
something like if you get a client in Singapore, that's when you started Siren Singapore. Is that the case?
No, I'll get to that. But so in Sydney, the project that kind of, I guess, the springboard for us was Yahoo 7.
Okay.
So, the search engine from, the Google of the day. So Yahoo 7 really, I guess, put Siren on the map for us in Australia. In 2011, I had the opportunity, my husband got headhunted to move to Singapore.
Okay. Right.
And it was at that point of time that, we thought, why not? Like, let's give it a go. Never even been to Singapore before. Have no idea what it's like there, but why not? The world is a big place, and we've got one crack at life. Let's give it a good go.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we moved to Singapore, and Mia and I decided, well, why don't we set up Siren in Singapore?
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit smart about this. I'm going to work for another design firm when I get there, just to figure out what the industry is like and the local market. And so I did. I found a job, and I found one pretty quickly. But I was probably there for 2 months and then decided, yep, I can do this. I've got this. I know I can do this. I can dig my heels in. And so I did. And then launched Siren. And I think, Singapore being a very pro-business country, it's really easy to set up a company and get going. And so I did that. And then it was a lot of, I worked really, really, really hard. Didn't know anyone, had no friends. And that was certainly a ride. And then I guess the Singapore studio, our project that put us on the map was Facebook.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I've been to Singapore Facebook office, so I can relate to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
I think it was
an
also
amazing project.
famous on social media. I remember seeing videos of it.
There was a lot of hype and media attention around that project, and that it really, when I first arrived and I was using my contacts, my network from Australia to like, please, can you introduce me to whoever you can introduce me to in Singapore. And I think as a startup and as someone new into that market, you do get a lot of, I guess deleted emails, and you've got to keep pressing the button, right? You've got to keep and not take
How
it
do you manage
personally.
to get these big clients in? Because I know B2B selling could be tough.
Yes, it is.
I've been on the other side of it. But how do you crack this code? Is it through local partnership or just by showcasing work or pure persuasion?
Your network. I think it's the relationships that you have, and then developing on those, and not saying no. I think it's I think when you get rejected, which you do a lot, and there's a lot of pitches that you go to and you don't win them, but not to take them personally. And I think just to kind of keep pushing through and saying, can I come back and see you again? Look what I've done now, and look what I've done now. And can you introduce me to 2 people that I should go and chat to? And then, slowly, it's certainly not an overnight thing.
Right.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
To
And
build your
Singapore is a networking culture, right? You see,
It is.
it's almost like gateway to Asia in a way. So you not only get local clients, but get introduced to other people. Does it how you started expanding out of Singapore through the networks?
Yeah, I would say a lot of headquarters are based in Singapore.
Right.
And so their, I guess, offices within APAC or Asia are mostly driven, decision makers are sitting in Singapore. So it's mostly driven from Singapore. So I think it was those decision makers that then took us to other countries within the region following those particular brands,
Right.
like Meta
Correct.
or
Yeah.
Amazon, Google. We've worked with them all in the region because they're they're heads of or all sitting in Singapore.
Correct. The decision makers are in Singapore.
Correct.
So and then you left Singapore and came to London.
Yes.
How big was Siren Design in Singapore when you left from there?
So this is a tricky question because I left in the middle of COVID.
Right. Okay.
So
Everything is different.
everything was different. I would say leading up to COVID, the business was thriving, doing really well. And then COVID hit and we design offices.
Right.
And no one's going to the office anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would say, all of our kind of work really fell off a cliff, and it wasn't a fun time at all. I think being a business owner going through COVID and going through something like that, I think there's so many stories out there that,
Cool.
and I don't need to explain how horrible COVID was, but we are a collaborative, in-person type of business, and to then have to work from home and we had to reset up all of our IT. It was big for us.
As a CEO, was that the most challenging time?
It was very challenging because making decisions around redundancies, which is awful because our business is our people and our people are our everything, and to have to let go of someone, it was brutal. It wasn't fun at all. So the decision, I think, we had kind of we were starting to come out of COVID when I moved to London, but the decision-making time was definitely in the middle of, well, not in the middle of COVID, but towards the end of it, when I think the Singapore government said, okay, we're sending you back to groups of two.
Right.
And it was like, oh my goodness, really? Again, here we go.
Yeah.
And we had...
I spent COVID in Singapore, so I can definitely relate to you. Walking to a shopping mall in the pair of two
Yes.
was a different.
And especially when you're a family of four.
Exactly.
And you're told to sit on opposite sides of the restaurant.
Right. I remember, we used to make pairs. Like me and my daughter will walk in front, and my son and his mom will be coming from back. So yeah, it must be a different experience.
Yeah. And so my husband actually said, why don't we move to London?
Right.
And I'm like, London? What do you... And then thought, why not? Let's give it a go. And again, same kind of mindset of when we moved to Singapore was, why not experience something new and give things a go? And, if you get these little opportunities in life, why not grab them with two hands?
Right. Well, that's fascinating story. So starting with the small company in Australia, moving to Singapore, and then to UK.
Yeah.
As now global CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the company grew, but at the same time you change as a leader as well. Do you remember any pivotal moments where you have seen yourself changing professionally in the journey?
Yes, definitely. I would say as a young leader, I was very much kind of, I guess, lead by example.
Right.
And I was in the trenches working hard, designing. I'm a designer. I'm not a businesswoman. That's kind of like a accidental. I'm an accidental businesswoman. And I think when you're leading a team, inspiring your team that way by being with the team, it's quite different now because now I guess I lead more from behind.
Yeah.
So there are managing directors in each of the studios who are incredible leaders on their own.
Right.
And I'm their wingwoman. I support them in terms of their leadership for their teams. So I don't so much. I still lead by example, but I don't.
But was this switch mentally difficult? Because I'll give you my example. So when I moved from India to Singapore, from a country role to regional, it was still okay because you're still in Asia. A lot of things are work pretty much in same way. But when I moved from Singapore to London in a global role, I had to unlearn few things. I had to let few things go. Was that the case for you that you have to now stop doing few things intentionally, even if it means not a great experience for few months or weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to let everyone else to learn, right? And they have to make their mistakes.
Right.
I've made plenty of mistakes and learned from them, and now it's time to kind of hand the baton over, and now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Because you can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
True.
And there's, it's having trust in your team and trust that they have in you that, I'm going to be there when they do fall.
Yeah. True.
And likewise the other way around. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's really fascinating. Have you? I mean, you are a designer by skills. This is what you like to do. When it comes to creative versus commercial decision, how do you manage it as a CEO?
So for our clients, when, I guess if
Both
they're
ways.
both
Like,
ways.
if it is for client, let's say you're pitching, if you really want to pitch a level design, but it will cost too much. So how do you pitch that to client, or how do you say we'll not go for A, we'll go A-1? Is it by giving options? And then B, second part, how do you manage it internally as well
Sure.
with your company workings?
So when we design, we're not designing for ourselves. We're
Right.
designing for our clients. And it's all about them. And if they have a budget, the design is around purpose.
Right.
So if the purpose of the new office or the space that we're designing doesn't meet the budget, well, then obviously I think the purpose does need to shift.
Right.
And identifying the brief and I guess what are the drivers of the project, and we will make that happen. And I think just to specify something that's more expensive doesn't necessarily make it a better project or a better design.
True.
I think sometimes I would say our most successful projects have been the ones that have had the littlest amount of money.
Right.
Because you do need to be incredibly creative when, you're given a task that, you've only got this amount of budget and we need it to spread across as far as it can. You come up with innovative ways of how you're going to spend that budget. So we certainly don't put parameters on projects because of cost.
Yes. But is it tough when dealing with large B2B businesses when you have to probably go through RFPs and you're bidding against someone?
Okay.
Is it tough to crack that in your proposal?
Yeah, I mean, I like to hope that when we are in competitive bids against our other design firms, that we are being compared apples for apples.
True, that is true.
So I think it's challenging when we're up against another design firm. Potentially they're a design and build firm,
Right.
which, their margins are much, much higher than ours. And it's, they make money off the build, not necessarily the design. And consultancy design, we don't make that much. So I think
services business.
it's a services building. Yeah, exactly.
So the margins are not too high.
It's not same as a construction company.
True. True.
So if we're compared to get against a construction company, it's harder for us.
Right.
They can go in lower.
Correct.
For example, on their fees because they might win the construction side,
Correct.
or they will win another project that they will make up that potential loss or,
Yeah,
uh,
it's part of the long-term strategy for them.
yeah.
Uh,
However, when we are, on equal apples to apples against other consultancy companies, I think you know where you sit commercially,
yeah.
and what the market is telling you, where I guess your costs need to be. Obviously, we're a time-based,
True.
resource-based consultancy. So that's how we work out our fees. And then you obviously put a commercial realization over the top of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And coming from other side, so there is a classic question of, do you go with single provider who does everything, or you go with best in class? Like you hire the best design firm, you hire the best construction company, and so on. What's your take on it? If you have to advise someone who is looking into design services, how do you sell this best in class model?
Okay, so I think there is this perception if you go to one company that's going to do it all,
Right.
it's going to be cheaper.
That's the perception.
That's the perception.
Right.
The budget is the budget.
Right.
And, there's whether you go to a design and build company or you're going to a consultancy and you have multiple consultants on the project,
Right.
ultimately we're all working towards the same budget.
True.
However, whose pockets are going to get lined a little bit more without, reading between the lines? Yeah. So I would always say the consultancy side is far more transparent. Because we are working hard for that budget. We want that money to be stretched as far as possible. The cost of the construction is not we don't really care, to be honest, because that's not our bottom line.
Right.
So therefore we want the design to push that budget as far as we possibly can. So to get the best outcome for the client.
For the client. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Any particular projects or example you want to highlight? You mentioned Facebook Singapore. Any unique experiences you have throughout your journey which you want to highlight?
There's been many projects.
Any weird request that I need to have XYZ in my office?
Probably I can't really say. There's a little bit of confidentiality, I guess, that comes with. There's.
I'll not put you on the spot.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
So moving on, I've also seen this creative versus commercial is one type of debate. Another is creative versus compliance. Somebody wants to put this design, but it might not be falling into compliance requirement. Have you come across any such a question, or how do you consider compliance while designing any workplace?
There are a number of regulations that we have to adhere to, and it's just building code that we have to. It's a non-negotiable.
Right.
There's fire safety. Any kind of compliance that is required within a design of a space, we're always going to meet. So there's no way around it, to be honest.
So that's true. So you have moved into, so you have various offices in various countries, right? So if you have to set up an office in new country as a CEO, do you have like a standard SOP which you follow? And we need to get XYZ right before setting anything up in a new location.
Okay, so when I moved from Singapore to London, the strategy of the way that I guess went into startup here was quite different to how I did it in Singapore. In Singapore, I very much, bootstrapped it myself and worked day and night, 24 hours a day, and did everything myself, and very much that organic growth. Whereas when I came to London, I thought, you know what, I need to be smart about this. I've got 2 kids. I'm a different person to what I was 12 years ago. Running other studios, I need to be able to, it can't be me. It can't be me working 24/7. So the decision was that I very much needed an MD in London and someone that was going to really help me, because you can't do everything yourself. And plus you don't know everything, and I don't know the London market, and so, I needed to build that network here as well. So I spent the first year when I moved to London looking for the MD
Yeah.
that was going to help me set up the studio here. And that takes a long time.
Yeah.
And so again, I use my network to find this person. Her name's Elena, and she's amazing. She's an incredible human being, and she's very well respected in the industry here.
Yeah.
And we've, we've set up the business together in London, and she's very much leading the team here. And she's got incredible existing relationships, which is, helping us win projects. And I've got amazing relationships from outside of APAC, and, we've got a 20-year pretty cool portfolio,
Yeah.
which is helping us, get through the front door and to the table to a lot of RFPs, which is great. So I feel like it's a grown-up startup,
Right.
if that sounds...
That's a good way to describe it. I'm going to put the link of Siren Group, Siren Design into the video description so people can visit it. You mentioned something interesting. So 2 points which you mentioned, and I want to deep dive on both of it. One is your personal development when you move from one location, when you grow into professionally as well, and the second thing is finding talent at a senior level. So starting with that, what exactly you look for when hiring someone at senior level, a decision making level?
I'm a gut person. um, I I think, when you meet someone, you instantly, if I don't instantly like them,
Right.
I think you get you get a
Yeah.
feeling of their they, will live by the same values that I have, and want the same things in life. And, we've got the same purpose and the same mission. And they're in, very, very important in finding, I think, a leader.
Right.
And yeah, so that's, that's one. I think skill set is another. I think, when you're looking for someone, looking for that attitude and their values, and that's number one for me.
Right.
And then, yeah, obviously the skill set needs to be there, but it's very much that
Do you
more
get involved
emotional
into
side.
all recruitments in
Yes.
Saran?
Yes.
So everybody who comes into the firm has met you before joining.
Majority.
Right.
Majority. There are a couple that I haven't met before they have started. They tend to be from other studios around the world, simply because I can't physically get there
Right.
to meet them now. But yes, I am involved with every recruitment decision.
Right. Okay. So, and then coming to the first point. So, I'm sure this entire journey professionally is rewarding, but personally, I'm sure it must be demanding a lot of things out of you. Being a mom, being a CEO, looking after global business. If you're comfortable, do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's all balance.
Right.
And it's finding, I guess, that sweet spot between, you can't do it all. It's impossible.
Right.
And you can't do it all at the same time. So I think it's kind of giving yourself permission to be kind, to, like, you know what, the kids are fine this year, or they're fine this week. They're going to be fine without mom, so I'm going to focus on the business.
Right.
Or it's the other way around, the kids really need mom at the minute, and I'm going to really call on the other leaders of the business to kind of cut me a little bit of slack so I can spend some time with my family or have a holiday, or, and then, spending time with friends and making time to, exercise, and which is obviously all very important.
How do you switch off and switch on? What's your way of doing? Exercise could be one. For me personally, meditation helps me a lot. What's your way of dealing with these many things?
Yeah, I think having that kind of 10-minute time to yourself, whether
Right.
you journal or you meditate or just having that space
Yeah.
for yourself that's incredibly important.
Right.
Um, Exercise is a big one as well. I think it's all the stuff that everyone always bangs on about, isn't it? It's eating well,
Yeah.
moving your body, sleeping well, like going to bed early. Um, we all like to, have a few drinks every now and then, but really during the week,
Yeah.
try and keep things as kind of clean as possible. So, I'm fresh and I'm ready and I'm ready to go every day. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I fascinating. You said that. I read somewhere, I don't remember where, but knowledge acquisition is easy. Like everybody knows what's the right thing to do.
Mm,
Is the knowledge execution
yeah,
is the toughest part, right? Everyone knows what to do, but it's so tough to practically do it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of my very, very good friends is a nutritionist and she's very much into wellness. And
Right.
this is how, um, and I love her. And she's like, okay, in the morning, you're going to get up and you're going to do Pilates first thing in the morning. You're not going to look at your phone and then you'll dive into your day. And I'm like, oh my God, that is not me. I will try my best, but it's not there because I start early and I'm in meetings early.
Right.
It's like that. I just can't do that first.
Yeah.
Whereas I've got to kind of schedule that in later in the day.
Yeah.
But I think you have to find what works for you
Yeah.
and not what, you listen to, I don't know, other very successful people. And they say, oh, I get up at 4 o'clock every morning and
Right. Right.
then I journal for an hour and then I do some yoga. And
But
then
you can say that you're a global CEO. You can say diary of CEO things.
I don't do that. However, I do schedule those things in for throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's
Is wellness a big factor in interior design as well now? Is a lot of time
yes,
a lot of client asking for this?
they are absolutely.
Okay.
Um, Most offices now they're far more than just an office.
Right. Yeah.
They are, that's that cultural touch point. It's where you go to get your wellness. It's where you're, it has to be so much more than just an office.
Right.
Because why are you going into that space? Um, so a lot of the offices we're designing have gym facilities.
Right.
They have meditation rooms.
Right.
They've got all of the areas to help you through the day, whether you need, high energy moments or low energy moments.
Right.
It's a very important part of the workplace.
So walk me through once you're appointed,
Mm.
how does the process go? Do you share a blueprint of what your theme is and then take the input, revise it? Walk me through that process. Like once you get the project, what happens?
So once we've been appointed, then there's an engagement process.
Yeah.
And depending from the client how big that stakeholder group is, whether it's just the leadership team, whether it's one person, or whether it's a range of heads from different departments,
Right.
we will engage with the business to understand what they need and what their purpose is. And that can be very different across multiple departments.
Sure.
And so I guess it's finding that defining purpose from the CEO.
Yeah.
And then it's coming down to, functionality versus aesthetics, aspirations,
Right.
and really kind of defining what that means for the business. So that's kind of part of our stage one. And we would go through visioning sessions with understanding the users of the business, how they want to use the space, how they need to use the space, what's going to enable them to thrive. And then it's also understanding, the culture and the personality of the business as well, how they want to be perceived in the market. Maybe there's a shift or there's a change that's going to happen with the fit out.
Right.
So yeah, that's really setting the foundations of the project before we even start to look at floor plans or, material palettes or look and feels.
Right.
So it's very much setting that solid brief.
Yeah.
And so then once we've got the brief, and it's all agreed, then we will start to dive into layout planning, and then experiential design and how the users are going to experience the space. Yeah.
When is the typical sign off that you are done with the project?
When they hand over the keys.
Right. That's or do you go and take the feedback on the design?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's we're throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
So during construction, we're there, we're on site, we're monitoring, we're making sure that what's we've designed is being built.
Right.
And then the client will move in. And I think it's at this point of time it's such an important checkpoint
Right.
because not everything's going to be perfect.
No.
I mean, we've all probably moved into a house or moved into a space where is it how it is now of when you moved in?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
You've probably moved a few things around and, you've lived in the space a little bit to understand, oh, actually, that chair in that corner, that didn't really work, did it?
Exactly.
So let's move it over here. So I think there's, that's a really basic example, but it is coming back to understand is the purpose of the space being used the way it was supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge or excitement is to work with all the stakeholders. There are different suppliers who are involved in the project as well. So working with them, getting everything right. We had one guest from audio video consulting background on this podcast. And he also mentioned about working with the designers to get everything right. I think that also is big part of project, right? Getting all the businesses aligned to the final goal of client.
Yeah, that pure coordination between all the consultants and all of no matter who the client and all the stakeholders from the client are, there's a lot of coordination that goes in.
How is the return to office impacting your business? Is it a good thing now? We see a lot of companies coming back. What's your take on it?
I would say uh, I mean, everyone is still not back in the office.
Right, not fully.
Not fully.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than it was a couple of years ago. And the benefits of obviously being in the office are paramount. I think everyone knows that collaboration and being with each other is really important. However, there are also benefits to a hybrid working environment as well. So I think it's not taking a blanket view
Sure.
of this business has to operate this particular way. I think it's being far more holistic in terms of, well, what is their purpose? How does that person work? Do they need to be in the office 5 days a week? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And so
Do you
therefore,
get that as part of brief in
yes,
new projects?
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And then that also helps define headcount numbers, but then also the strategy of, well, if you're only coming into the office 3 days a week, should you have a desk to yourself? Probably not.
Right.
And then what does that look like? What does the landscape of the office look like? What does the technology look like? And so it really does impact. There's no one size that fits all. And I would say every business has its own unique challenge and kind of, I guess, the way that the business operates and the way that, the users of the office, come together.
In the current projects which you are seeing, is there any common trend or theme which you are seeing in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but wellness is a big one. DE&I is also, very important as well, that we are creating environments for neurodiversity as well, so that everyone that's coming into the space, there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
They are two, I would say, big kind of, not trends, but most workplaces are,
Yeah.
really trying to accommodate for everybody.
Excellent. So changing gear here, I'm mindful of your time, right? I already appreciate you being here and spending so much time with me. But couple of questions. When I started this podcast, there were two reasons primarily. One is I will learn a lot from people just by listening to them, just by being around them. So asking about that, do you have any mentors in your journey? Do you had any mentors in your journey? Do you want to talk about them?
Um, I would say I've had people that have definitely influenced me and have impacted, I guess, my career journey. There's been in Sydney, when I was a young designer, there was one particular project manager that I remember. And she is a powerhouse, and she had a team of women who were also, incredibly kind, but also tough.
Yeah.
And, I admired her and her team very much. And one of the first projects that I worked on was with her, and her name's Joanne Harrison.
Okay.
And I still think of her as someone that I wanted to aspire to be like.
Right.
So yeah, I would say she was, quite, a big influence on me when I was young.
As a female CEO, is it a tough still in this day uh, to operate in this world? Construction is seen as a lot of male-dominated field. Uh, do you want to share anything about it?
I would say, yes, it's very male orientated,
Yeah.
the construction industry. And we probably have missed out on, not being part of the boys club or being invited to certain pitches or, beers at the pub.
Yeah.
But then also on the flip side, being a minority is not necessarily a bad thing either. So, you kind of can stand out from the crowd a little bit. I haven't seen it as, being female, I don't think it's a hindrance. I try and take the opposite side of that and use, I guess maybe I've got a little bit more EQ, maybe.
No, that's true. That's definitely true. The last question, Penny, is if anybody is entering into this workplace, interior design space, be it retail, be it corporate, or be it individual working on homes and so on, for them, what's your career advice for anybody who is starting in this business?
I think that goes right back to the very, very beginning, which was try and get as much experience as you can. Work experience is invaluable, I think. And don't give up as well because you will get set back. And unfortunately, someone will always say you need experience to start, which is so hard because no one has experience when they start.
Is there any other skill set required now, like AI technology? Is there anything which will complement to the design skills?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many programs now. Revit is probably the most popular, or the one program that it's a big requisite, to be honest, when you're coming into the workforce. So to make sure that you know what programs and that you need to be kind of proficient with before you're even going for a job, that will help, absolutely. Wherever you're studying, they should be teaching you those, but they don't always do that. So I think however early you can start your network, just start it.
Right.
Sometimes it's not what you know, but it's who you know that can open a door for you.
Sure.
And then every opportunity, just take it and own it and work hard.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter.
Yeah.
You need to turn up and put in the hours, and if you want to, progress, it's a long road for sure.
Thanks so much,
yeah.
Penny. I think this is really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for being so much candid, sharing all the experience. I'm going to share the company website and your LinkedIn ID so people will start networking with you, hopefully, in the description. But really, thank you for
Pleasure. Thanks for
coming
having
on the
me.
show.
Thank you.